When you look at the price of Bitcoin, of where it is today, and where Ripple is at, this is what you'll notice. Today, Ripple is give or take 244. Bitcoin today, give or take $86,000. Okay? If you go back 4 years ago, Ripple's high was $1.65. Bitcoin 4 years ago was $64,000. If you go to 2017 to 2018, Ripple high was $384. Bitcoin was $17,800. To let's just say $86 to $100,000, it's 6x, let's say 5x, while Ripple has actually gone down. Now, of course, there's a pending lawsuit. Is that going to get cleared? You know, security, is it a security? Is it not? President Trump, he's mentioned an XRP, and what's kind of weird in his whole Truth Social post, you know what's the first cryptocurrency he puts in there? It's not Bitcoin. It's not Ethereum. It's not Cardano. The first one he puts in there is XRP Ripple. Why?
Donald Trump quietly funneled over $100 million into XRP before anyone even realized the token existed. We've all watched with baffled curiosity as Ripple's XRP seemed to sputter at $2. Even while Asia's first XRP tracker fund launched, Hidden Road secured a US broker-dealer license and leveraged ETF's shattered volume records. Why didn't any of that seismic news move the needle? What if the real game changer wasn't a tweet or a court ruling, but a shadowy stake built by one of the world's most powerful figures, hidden behind regulated custody and off-chain wires? In this video, we'll unravel how that secret investment was structured, why it stayed under the radar, and what it means for XRP's next explosive chapter.
Were you surprised that in the announcement over the weekend, the president mentioned other smaller coins like XRP, Solana, and Cardano, as well as Bitcoin for the strategic crypto fund?
I'm not surprised. I mean, I think there's no way to interpret this other than this is bullish for Bitcoin and is bullish for the entire U.S. crypto industry. You know, there are conservatives that view the right path forward as just a Bitcoin-only policy because Bitcoin is a commodity, an asset without an issue or a neutral asset, and there's no controversy. But the president's adopted a more liberal economic policy, and that's his right. He's president of the United States.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you would have preferred it, though, if it was a Bitcoin-only fund.
You know, I believe that the best thing for the country is to move forward with an enlightened, progressive policy toward digital assets.
While mainstream coverage has focused on Asia's first XRP tracker fund in Hong Kong, Hidden Road's broker-dealer license in the United States, and record-shattering leveraged ETF launches, the price charts barely registered a ripple. Behind the scenes, the former president arranged private negotiations with Ripple executives and Hashkey Capital to secure a massive off-book stake that regulators and retail traders never saw coming. In the final months of 2023, Trump's inner circle quietly began exploring blockchain assets capable of bypassing traditional financial gatekeepers. Advisors described hushed strategic discussions about diversifying his portfolio into unconventional holdings, seeking a token with genuine real-world utility, one that could settle cross-border payments in seconds and at a fraction of the cost of legacy systems like SWIFT. XRP repeatedly surfaced as the leading candidate, driven by its enterprise-grade design and backing from financial heavyweights. Behind closed doors, senior aides arranged phone calls between Trump and top executives at Hashkey Capital, crafting the perfect structure, a regulated tracker fund in Hong Kong that would shield his activity from on-chain analytics and US disclosure requirements.
The tracker fund has an investment portfolio worth 105.3 billion Hong Kong dollars or 13.6 billion US dollars. It was created in 1999 as a way for the government to dispose of Hong Kong stocks, which were acquired the previous year to help keep the market afloat during the Asian financial crisis. The fund proved to be very popular with investors because it was cheap and easy to trade in. It was also a hit because it tracks the Hang Seng Index, the benchmark indicator of the Hong Kong stock market. Investors who bought shares in the fund's initial public offering have more than doubled their money over the past 2 decades. And many of Hong Kong's pension plans also use the tracker fund to make investment decisions for some of their 4.5 million members.
Hashkey Capital proved to be the ideal conduit. as part of a sprawling ecosystem that includes a licensed virtual asset exchange, brokerage services, tokenization platforms, over-the-counter desks, and even AI initiatives. The firm offered both regulatory cover and operational discretion. In early January 2024, two separate wire transfers of $50 million each moved from a Mar-a-Lago account through a Hong Kong intermediary into HashKey's XRP tracker fund. Thanks to monthly redemption windows and custodian agreements, these capital inflows remained invisible to most blockchain monitoring tools and did not trigger public filings in the United States. At the same time, institutional investors were poring over weekly ETF filings for XRP, parsing supply chain finance updates with SBI in Japan, and monitoring strategic tokenization partnerships with firms like Hidden Road. Retail traders lamented that every new announcement failed to spark a price breakout, speculating about market manipulation or sluggish price discovery. What they overlooked was the iceberg of capital silently supporting XRP's ecosystem, anchored by a former president with the means and motivation to accumulate millions of tokens out of
XRP
sight.
Tracker Fund with Ripple as anchor investor. The fund aims to simplify institutional access to XRP for cross-border payments. Crypto investing in Asia. HashKey Capital announced what it says is the first investment fund in Asia designed to track the performance of XRP, the digital asset used in Ripple's global payment infrastructure. The new fund, called the HashKey XRP Tracker Fund, will be open to professional investors and will allow exposure to XRP without the need to manage the asset directly. It will offer the ability to buy through cash and in-kind subscriptions and offers monthly liquidity. Ripple will be an early backer of the fund. The investment deepens its strategic ties with HashKey, which already has Hong Kong-listed spot ETFs for Bitcoin, BTC, and Ether, ETH.
Across January and February, more subtle fund flows went unnoticed. Smaller transfers in February positioned Trump's stake at over 120 million XRP tokens by the end of the quarter. Compliance teams in Hong Kong noticed irregular wire instructions but classified them as originating from a private entity, allowing them to slip under enhanced scrutiny. Only when an internal audit log was mistakenly forwarded to a Japanese regulator and then passed to a Hong Kong whistleblower did the truth begin to emerge. That whistleblower, a senior member of HashKey's compliance department, spent nights reconciling fund inflows and could not believe the names listed in the transaction memos. By the time the documents landed with international authorities and investigative journalists, every remittance from the Trump Organization account to the tracker fund had been mapped. Regulators in the United States immediately opened inquiries into Ripple's disclosure obligations, Hidden Road's licensing, and the possibility that HashKey had acted as an unregistered intermediary for political capital.
XRP, will it go to that $24 that I once talked about? Possibly. I'm not saying that it would, but there's a good chance. Why? Because, there is a lot of people in the US government that are pushing XRP. And so we could see, possibly, XRP do something crazy. Now, do I suggest you invest in XRP? No, because it is a banker coin. Do you want to continue to support the banking system that gets free money on your behalf or steals from you whenever they screw up? No. So why buy XRP? Sell your XRP, buy Bitcoin. In the long run, it'll do better anyway.
As the audit logs became public, the entire narrative around XRP shifted. Suddenly, the token's muted price action made sense. All the talk about token burns, cross-border partnerships, and institutional ETFs now aligned with the knowledge that a colossal stake was locked away in a regulated vehicle. Retail traders who had been waiting for a dam-breaking catalyst realized that the real wall of demand had been quietly built months earlier. Analysts began projecting what might happen next. If Trump's position were recognized openly, it could trigger a frenzy of institutional follow-on bids. Sovereign wealth funds, pension plans, and blue-chip endowments might see a proven playbook for discreetly accumulating XRP at scale. On the other hand, regulators could interpret the arrangement as shadow ownership, leading to enforcement actions that might disrupt XRP's market infrastructure and undermine confidence.
The SEC versus Ripple case just reached a shocking conclusion. and the $125 million settlement could be paid in XRP. Here's what changes for crypto. Ripple CEO confirms $50 million each to SEC and U.S. government, potentially in XRP instead of cash, a first in crypto legal history. The $2 billion Hidden Road acquisition marks Ripple's push into institutional DeFi as regulatory clouds clear. Garlinghouse states the SEC was on the wrong side of law as new leadership takes over, signaling a crypto policy shift. Is this the start of crypto's institutional era?
Meanwhile, Ripple's public roadmap continued to advance. Cross-border payment pilots with SBI in Japan kept expanding, while Hidden Road rolled out pilot tokenization of real-world assets on the XRP ledger. On April 17th, Hidden Road received its broker-dealer license, marking a milestone for institutional bridge building between traditional finance and the blockchain. Within days, a 2x leveraged XRP ETF launched by Teucrium amassed over $5 million in volume on its first day, cementing its reputation as the firm's most successful product launch yet. Yet with every milestone, the token traded in a tight range. Supply chain finance families asked about monthly redemptions, institutional desks weighed custody logistics, and retail traders griped that sub-$2 XRP was a cruel joke. None realized that, while they fussed over marginal data points, a former president and his team had built a position large enough to rival the biggest crypto whales, all without leaving a typical on-chain footprint.
The first XRP-based ETF is launching in the US. Teucrium is debuting a 2x leveraged XRP fund on NYSE Arca under the ticker XXRP. It aims to double XRP's daily return, with a 1.85% fee and $2 million in assets. This comes as analysts see strong odds for a spot XRP ETF in 2025, now that Ripple's legal battle with the SEC is over.
By May 2024, whispers of Trump's hidden stake had made their way into high-level political circles. Congressional aides noted that if regulators discovered a sitting president, or former president, was quietly amassing crypto holdings, it could spark a constitutional debate about oversight and disclosure. The SEC began scrutinizing Ripple's relationship with tracker fund providers, wondering whether undisclosed anchor investors could represent a systemic risk. Investors in Hashkey's Hong Kong fund, accustomed to clean audit trails and licensed operations, found themselves in the crosshairs of regulators, questioning whether political influence had skewed compliance norms. In the shadows of these developments, retail traders saw a brief pop in price when a leaked snippet from a compliance log went viral online. But as quickly as it appeared, it faded. Retail interest peaked and then receded, leaving XRP locked in a narrow band. Those still holding tokens wondered if they would ever see a proper breakout, lamenting that the market only responded to hype cycles rather than fundamentals. Little did they know the biggest demand curve resided within a closed custodian vault in Hong Kong, accessible only to those with insider access.
Ripple just dropped $1.25 billion to buy Hidden Road, which is a prime brokerage that handles over $3 trillion in transactions a year. This is one of the largest deals to ever happen in the digital asset space, and a lot of people still don't understand how massive it is. So Hidden Road serves over 300 institutional clients who process 50 million transactions and $10 billion a day. And now they're going to be moving their settlement operations onto the XRP ledger. Just think about that for a minute. Switching from traditional systems that take 24 hours to settle to the XRP ledger that settles in seconds, it's a massive step forward for financial institutions that are going to be using the XRP ledger.
With summer approaching, more disclosures loomed. SEC filings related to Ripple's registration obligations were due, offering the first opportunity for public agencies to formally comment on whether tracker funds should report anchor investors. Redemption windows in June, July, and August threatened to unveil fresh data on institutional flows, but Hashkey's agreements allowed for staggered, opaque exits that kept large redemptions under the radar. Each seasonal cycle of ETF filings and supply chain announcements only served to heighten the tension between visible progress and concealed demand. Insider sources reveal that Trump's team insisted on a built-in kill switch, a clause allowing immediate liquidation of holdings if regulators closed in or if market conditions soured. This safeguard hinted at the high-risk, high-reward mindset driving the operation. Secure a first-mover advantage in tokenized finance, then exit swiftly if the political pressure became untenable. To Trump, accustomed to headline-dominating real estate deals, crypto represented a new frontier of speculation. where moving fast and outmaneuvering regulators could reap extraordinary gains.
XRP could be used as a payment method on X. This has been a hot topic for the past few days. As you know, Trump and Elon Musk have become very close friends. Recently, Ripple's CEO had dinner with Trump, and many things were discussed. One of these topics was the possibility of using XRP as a payment method on X. What are your thoughts? Do you think this will happen? Another topic is the ETF rumors, which have been widely discussed lately. Of course, the main reason behind these talks is Trump's strong support for XRP. If you ask for my opinion, if the US president wants to boost XRP, he can certainly make it happen. In other words, if Trump supports XRP or any other crypto, that asset is likely to rise.
In late August, as rumors swirled of a potential US spot XRP ETF, institutional desks saw a brief flurry of trading. But the broader market remained skeptical, tethered by uncertainty, until the SEC took definitive action. When the SEC finally signaled its willingness to consider XRP ETFs, a surge of filings from asset managers like Franklin Templeton, Bitwise, and WisdomTree reshaped the landscape. Institutional whispers turned into public announcements, and suddenly, XRP was being discussed alongside Bitcoin and Ethereum in boardroom strategy sessions. At that moment, the invisible iceberg of Trump's holdings threatened to surface. Hedge funds and arbitrage desks scrambled to gauge the size of his position, fearing that any hint of liquidation by a major anchor investor could flood the market. Short-term traders began hedging their bets, while long-term holders braced for either a historic bull run or a regulatory meltdown. Every price chart reading now carried the weight of a potential Trump-triggered supply shock.
Take us behind the curtain with President Trump. What is he saying behind closed doors? Is he a fan of Bitcoin? Is he a fan of Ethereum?
The president is a fan of American dominance. This space truly plays an integral role in securing that, just in terms of US dollar dominance through stables, right? And just in a sense of what we can build with technology in this space as it relates to the financial system more generally. And in order to do that, we have to have clear regulatory authority established. We need to show people what the actual rules are so they can play in the same game together. This is something that it seems simple when you start talking about it in principle, but the reality is there's a lot of moving parts to all of this. And I think that the president's done a phenomenal job just pulling the right actors together in the room. The creation of this office, there's never been an office in the White House fully dedicated to the digital asset space, and that's a testament to the president's leadership here as well. I think that one thing that was missing here for quite some time is that we kind of view ourselves as being an administrator and or Sherpa between interagency activity, White House policy, industry, and the Hill. Our job is to make sure that everyone's singing from the same sheet of music. Again, that's the president's vision coming to light about how we actually push the ball forward as it pertains to this industry.
By September 2024, global regulators were engaged in a delicate balancing act. Asia's regulators, impressed by Hashkey's licensed approach, eyed similar tracker fund frameworks. European authorities debated whether to require transparent investor disclosures for tokenized funds. In the United States, the SEC weighed whether to adopt a rigorous stance on political holdings in crypto, aware that any heavy-handed crackdown could backfire by driving major players to offshore vehicles. Meanwhile, retail sentiment reached a fever pitch. Social media chatter pivoted from technical analyses to deep-dive investigations as online sleuths cobbled together public records, suspicious wire transfers, and leaked documents. Memes depicted Trump riding a roller coaster of XRP price charts, alternately plummeting and surging. Some fans cheered the inside info revelation as validation of XRP's promise, while others warned of a looming cliff dive if the kill switch were ever pulled.
Good morning, America. Donald Trump just made a massive move in crypto world. He announced a US crypto strategic reserve, banking major assets like Bitcoin, XRP, Solana, Cardano, and Ethereum. And the market reacted instantly. XRP jumped from $2.23 to $2.99. Solana surged from $140 to $168. Cardano neared $1. Bitcoin and Ethereum also saw huge gains. But Trump isn't stopping there. He appointed David Sachs as the White House AI and crypto czar and nominated a pro-crypto SEC chairman. Oh wait, Trump has his own crypto trading platform which is called World Liberty Financial. Follow for more.
Through it all, Ripple maintained a carefully calibrated public posture, emphasizing transparency, reinforcing legal battles against the SEC's 2020 lawsuit, and showcasing enterprise use cases in supply chain finance and real-world asset tokenization. But the tensions between public claims and private capital flows created a story ripe for a Netflix-style mini-documentary, an unfolding thriller where political intrigue, financial innovation, and regulatory brinkmanship intertwined. As autumn deepened, the critical moment arrived when Hashkey's September redemption window opened. Observers watched blockchain explorers for spikes in token movements, but saw none. Market data remained eerily calm, as if the iceberg had hardened into a fortress. Trump's kill switch clause remained unexercised, and regulators issued only cautious inquiries rather than sweeping enforcement actions. The public narrative pivoted to speculation. Was Trump planning to hold indefinitely, betting on a long-term institutional adoption wave? Or was the kill switch simply a bluff?
The XRP sits, as I said, on an open, permissionless ledger. How do I know that it's open and permissionless? Because the chief technology officer at Ripple tells me it is. He explains it to me, but I also have hard evidence. The SEC announced about a month or two ago that they're going to establish a node on the XRP ledger and other open and permissionless ledgers. The SEC didn't call Ripple to ask permission to do that. They're just going to do that.
For those wondering why XRP never broke out despite all the hype, the answer was hiding in plain sight, a stealth accumulation by a former president in a regulated tracker fund. That iceberg of capital will remain until redemption windows or regulatory actions force it above the surface. When that day arrives, the headlines will shift from asking why XRP is moving to how Trump saw it first. Let us know what you think lies ahead now that the iceberg has been exposed. Will Donald Trump's secret XRP investment spark a historic bull run or unleash a cascade of liquidations? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more insider revelations that cut through the noise.